everybody! Welcome back. I'm so sorry I'm a little late with today's or this week's video. I was away at a conference and just got back last night. I'm so happy to see you all and be recording this video for you again. I hope you all had a wonderful week. So today we're going to talk about attachment. In case you're wondering what that is, we usually think of attachment, especially in the Hindu, Buddhist sort of philosophy, we think of attachment as kind of not a good thing, you know? Why should we be attached? Detachment is the thing to go for, right? So we are taught that attachment means kind of clinging on to people or to material things, and that we shouldn't be that clinged on and we should be detached. Now, detachment is a good concept, okay, if you want to be a sannyasi. If you want to be a sannyasi or a religious person or a spiritual person, you want to give your life to that, great. Go ahead and be detached. That is a wonderful thing to aspire for. But if you have a spouse or children or parents that you care about, then detachment is not for you. It's not going to work, okay? It causes a lot of confusion and pain in personal relationships when you choose detachment. The reason I think we don't understand attachment very well is because all of society's messages is about how attachment is a bad thing. We confuse good attachment with being dependent on people, or being too clingy with people, or needing people too much, or being too dependent on other people. You know, in psychiatric literature even, people call that being enmeshed, right? And what we have forgotten is that we are all mammals. We belong to a species called mammals. And mammals often will mate with another mammal for life and will try to create a safe space where they can have offspring and rear offspring. For us, it's children. For other mammals, like for chimpanzees, it's baby chimpanzees, right? In all mammals, they try to mate for life so that they can have babies and they can raise babies together, okay? If you think of a mammal, let's think of a newborn baby. As soon as a newborn baby is born, what does it do? It immediately latches onto the mother's breast, right? It immediately attaches itself to the mother. How does it know to do that? Did anybody ever sit down a newborn baby and say, hey, if you want to survive, you'd better know how to drink milk from your mom. You'd better learn that pretty quick, you know. Here's how you do it. No one's training newborns, right? The second they're born, they know how to do that. This is because attachment is wired into our nervous systems. Being mammals, this is something that we don't need to learn how to do. We are born knowing how to do, right? So what is healthy attachment then? So to illustrate that, I'm going to tell you a little story. The story goes like this. There was once upon a time this brilliant researcher and child development psychologist called John Bowlby. All right, some of you may have already heard his name. He has done amazing things for the field. So there was this guy called John Bowlby, and he joined with another brilliant researcher called Mary Ainsworth, and they decided that they would study what attachment is and what are the different kinds of attachment, what is healthy attachment, what is non-healthy attachment, right? Because on the one hand, we are mammals and we need attachment even to survive. It's a part of our nervous system. But on the other hand, we're taught that too much attachment is a bad thing. So they wanted to understand what is enough and what is too much, and what is good and what is not good attachment. So what they did was they did this. Even today, it astounds me how simple and elegant this experiment was that they set up. So they had young mothers, young or middle-aged, doesn't matter, with young babies. The baby age is more important. The babies were toddlers, right? Anywhere between 2 to 4 years old. And they had these mothers bring in their babies into a room, a research lab room, okay? And so they would come in, and inside the room, there would be some toys. And so they just leave them alone for a few moments. And the child, initially is a little bit shy, it's a new room. But after a couple of minutes, it gets down and starts playing with the toys, right? Then what they do is they have a strange person. This experiment is called the strange person experiment. Okay, so they have a strange person come into the room, and the strange person sits in one corner, doesn't make a sound, doesn't talk, doesn't laugh, doesn't do anything, just quietly sits in a corner. Now the baby's a little confused, right? It's like, oh, who is this stranger here? And so it might like run to the mom and stand with the mom and keep looking at the stranger. But after a few minutes, it gets bored. The stranger is not really responding. The person isn't doing anything. So the child gets reinterested in the toys and tentatively keep looking at the stranger and starts going back towards the toys and starts playing with it. Okay. The next part of the experiment, they ask the mom to leave the room, right? Oh, this is where, the baby is understandably super upset. So the mom leaves the room and the baby protests. And the baby protests by what? Crying, right? It bursts into tears, it runs towards the door, it's hitting on the door, it's trying to peek through the door, saying, Mama, Mama, or if the child has learned how to say that, it'll try to call the mom. It's really, really upset and dysregulated. He or she might pick up a toy and throw it. The baby is trying to signal to the world that my mom is missing. I need to find my mom. I need my mom for survival. I am freaking out. Somebody bring my mom back, right? This is a typical response. We've all seen it when babies that we know, when their mom or dad, whoever is the primary caregiver, has to step outside for a minute or two, the baby melts down and cries hysterically. We've seen that in our real lives, regular lives. And this is what they saw in the experiment as well. That was not the interesting part, because we all know that babies do that already. What was the interesting part was that after a few minutes, they would wait to see what happened. In the safe haven secure base kind of attachment babies, if the baby already had a good model for safe and secure attachment, then the baby after several minutes of crying would slowly start like looking at the blocks again. Still very upset, right? But looking at the blocks and looking around and still crying a little bit. Then they would have the mothers come back into the room. What do you think happens? The baby, understandably, right, runs to the mom, is like crying, asking to be picked up, might even be angry at the mom, is like, lots of tears, is staring and crying and pointing to the stranger, maybe to say, it must be the stranger who did this horrible thing, right? So the baby is trying to ask the mom to soothe her or him. So the message from the baby is, I was really scared, Mom. Why did you leave me? Are you going to leave again? Will you stay with me? Please stay with me. I need to show you how upset I was when you left so that hopefully you won't leave again. Okay, so that's kind of the message the baby is giving. And then usually what do moms do? They say, oh, beta or kuti, it's okay, baby. I'm right here. I'm so sorry. I had to step out. I shouldn't have left you. I am so sorry. I love you. It's going to be okay, right? That's what we do as parents when babies are scared and they cry because they were afraid that they lost us or something. We try to soothe them. If a baby has secure attachment model, then after a few moments, they cry and they allow the parent to soothe them and they start feeling a little less agitated. So maybe 5 minutes of crying and then finally they're able to like stop crying and then they can laugh at a joke that the mom makes and then they want to get down again and go and play and show some blocks or show some train set or something to the mother. The baby is able to feel soothed and then starts feeling curious about the world again, right? The world is full of toys, Mom. I'm feeling better. Come, let me show you how cool these toys are. And the baby wants to go play. He might keep turning and looking at the mother to make sure that she stays in the room, but he's able to try again to have fun out in the world. That is a safe and secure attached child, okay? Now, what happens if a child is not able to have secure, safe attachment? maybe because of, neglect or some medical illness in the first year of life, some abuse that happened in the first year of life, confusing caregivers coming and going in the first year of life. Many things can cause insecure attachment. Okay. Oftentimes it is that the parent, whether it's a mother or the father, they themselves don't have secure attachment because they themselves have had a very hard childhood. And so they don't know how to create secure, safe attachment with the baby. So they might give mixed signals, Instead of soothing the baby, they just get annoyed at the baby, right? They say, "Why are you crying? I just stepped outside for a minute. Get down, get down, get down," right? Or they may cling so much to the baby so that even when the baby is ready to go and explore the room, they won't let go. They'll just keep clinging and crying. So the baby is like all confused and is not able to self-regulate their distress because the parent isn't able to. So for various reasons like this, if a child has insecure attachment, the experiment went like this. The child would come in, would be clinging to the mom, or would completely ignore the mom right from the get-go, would just go and start playing, not even turn to acknowledge the mom or look at the mom. When the mom leaves, if it's an anxiously attached child, then the child is like screaming, crying, rolling on the floor, unable to tolerate it, can't even breathe, right? But when the mom comes back in and the child goes and runs and wants to be picked up, no amount of soothing by the mom is able to calm down the baby. The baby, even 20 minutes later, is still crying and crying, pulling at the mom's hair, hitting her, unable to feel soothed, even if the mom is trying to soothe her. That is an anxiously attached baby. The other type is the avoidant attached baby. These babies often don't even care if the mom is in the room or not. When she leaves, they just turn around and they might cry for a couple of minutes and then they don't care. They just go back to playing. And when the mom comes, they turn and look, but they don't even go to the mom or ask to be picked up. They just like stare at the mom, might throw a block in anger, one of their toys, but they just ignore her afterwards. That is an avoidant attacher. Okay? The cool thing about this is these patterns sustain even in adulthood. So if we were, right, if you were a secure, safely attached baby, you will be able to carry that forward into your adult relationships, in your marriage, with your spouse, with your children, and you'll be able to soothe them when they need soothing. You'll be able to ask for soothing and be vulnerable without feeling too anxious or trying to avoid it. But if you are an anxious baby, oftentimes in adulthood, we are the people who become like complainers, okay? So in our intimate relationships in adulthood, we end up like poking the other person, constantly complaining, criticizing, because what we're trying to do is we're so anxious to get reassurance that we can't allow the partner to soothe us. Just like the anxiously attached baby, even when the mother was trying to soothe, the baby will just not accept that soothing, will cry and protest and just be so upset. The same thing happens in adulthood. We cannot allow our partners or significant other relationships to soothe us. We feel so anxious that we have to keep criticizing, trying to make sure that we get reassurance. We need our partners and our children to constantly tell us how much they care about us, that they're there for us, they're not going to abandon us, they will always never abandon us, we're always right next to you. And that might soothe us for a little while, and then we get the anxiety again, and we need to poke them again to make sure that we get that reassurance, right? There are many of us who have anxious attachment, right? And so if you recognize that in yourself, or if you recognize that in any of your loved ones in your life, maybe your spouse, maybe your parents or your in-laws or your children, that is okay. There are ways, it's hard to do, but it's not impossible to teach ourselves a safe, secure way of attachment, even if we've never learned it. And if we've always been an anxious attacher, we can still learn. Okay, there are really powerful ways in which we can learn. And I say that because I myself taught myself as an adult. I did not have a secure attachment when I was young because of many chaotic things that happened in my childhood. But I taught myself as I was growing as an adult. And there are powerful ways in which you can teach yourself, or you can have your loved ones learn these things as well. And I'll tell you all about that in subsequent videos. Now, if you're an avoidant attacher, as an adult, you are going to just keep feelings at arm's length, right? You say, when someone says, "How do you feel about that?" You say, "I don't know. I mean, why do we have to be so emotional? Can we just like not talk about emotions all the time, right? Can we focus on the task at hand?" Oftentimes, avoiders are very good at to-do lists and getting a lot of things done, but they have a hard time sitting in discomfort or uncomfortable feelings, or in their partner's discomfort. They need to fix it. So many times women tell me, in my couples therapy sessions, women will say, "I want him being her husband, I want him to just sit with me when I'm upset, but he just wants to immediately give me solutions and fix it." And that's because avoidant attachers oftentimes are confused and overwhelmed by all this emotional stimuli that's coming at them. They don't know what to do with it. So they rush to trying to find a solution to fix it. They're very good at fixing. And that's a useful skill, right? If you can put away emotions and fix things, you're going to do well in many fields. But it's not a very good skill if that's the only way you know to respond to your loved ones. Why is that? Because your loved one will feel rejected, will feel abandoned, and will feel like she cannot trust you or he cannot trust you, and that his or her pain and struggle doesn't matter to you. The sad thing is, it does matter. Even to avoiders, they actually do care about their family members. They just don't know how to show it because it's too overwhelming. Emotions are too much and they need to put a distance because they don't know what to do with it. When you do that, though, your partner or your child, it appears to them that you just don't care, and it can be very hurtful. So that is an overview of attachment and the different styles of attachment, okay? Again, all these patterns are pretty normal. It's, all over the world. Some people are safe attachers and secure attachers. Some people are anxious attachers. Some people are avoidant attachers. All of this is okay because there are ways in which we can learn, even as adults, we can learn to make ourselves feel safe and secure in our attachment patterns. Why is that important? Because without that, you're going to cause a lot of hurt to your own self and a lot of hurt in your relationships, in your family, with your parents, with your loved ones, with your siblings, with your children. There's going to be a lot of confusion and pain and, hurt. And nobody knows why. Everyone feels that they're doing the right thing. They're doing the best they can, which is true. But it ends up being a kind of a toxic cycle. And at the next video, I'm going to tell you about different cycles that we can get into with our loved ones. If, let's say, you're an anxious attacher and your husband is an avoidant attacher, there's a certain pattern, predictable pattern, in which your interactions will go. And your whole life can be traced to a series of these patterns. The pattern is different if, say, you're avoidant and your husband's also avoidant. Or let's say you have a safe, secure attachment style, but your wife is having an anxious attachment style. All of these combinations are pretty common, and we can trace certain patterns of relationships that happen as a result of what type of attacher you are and what type of attacher your spouse is. And we'll talk about that in the next video. I hope this was useful. I'm going to attach a link to a survey. If you go to the survey, it'll help you figure out what kind of attacher you are. This is super helpful information to have for the rest of your life, okay? So I really recommend, it's a free survey. I would recommend to click on it, print it, and you fill it out and have your spouse also fill it out so that you know what kind of attacher you are and you know what kind of attacher your spouse is. When in the next video, when I talk about the cycles, if you've done this exercise, it'll make a lot more sense. Okay? All right, my friends, it was so lovely seeing you. Happy Friday, and have a wonderful weekend. Happy July 4th, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Adios. Bye-bye.